This is going to be a quick bonus video that just dives a little bit more into some of the more advanced geometric techniques with editing shapes in ArcPro. So what I've done to prep this is just sort of create a shapefile called sample that I've dragged in, so you can duplicate that yourself, give yourself some practice in sort of creating a new shapefile or a feature class. And I've got it in here, and I'll go to my sort of editor toolbar. I'm not going to add any attributes or anything. We're really going to just play around with drawing new shapes. So, first thing we'll do is come in to create, as we did in the previous video, and say we're going to create the sample. Something we talked about in sort of the last video, there's a lot of different, kind of ways to create shapes. You can draw a polygon. You can draw a circle. You can draw sort of more of a squiggly line. Your choice. We'll start with like the simple polygon. And I'll just sort of start drawing some, where's my cursor? There we go. Start drawing some random shapes here. Double click to be finished. But really what I wanted to do here was demonstrate that if you come over here to these elements here, there's actually a ton of really cool assist technique tools that help you do more complex operations. And this video is not going to do, even a plurality of them. I mean, we'll try to focus on maybe 4 to 6 that I think are really sort of, important and helpful to you. Just sort of give you more practice, and then you should feel free to sort of play around with others as you go. So one of the first ones I want to sort of make sure we do is edit vertices. The importance with this one is like when you've drawn a shape and you want to sort of remake the way it looks. So if you click on edit vertices, whatever's selected, you'll see these sort of points come up. All right, these are the vertices. And you should also see this sort of toolbox come down here, this toolbar, that has a couple of sort of options for you. The first thing that's sort of automatically clicked is this lasso. And really all that means is you can take the different vertice points and you can change where they are, right? And so it'll give you an old selection of what it used to look like as well as sort of what the new ones do. Whenever you like what you've done, important thing to do here is to finish, right? That finishes the shape, and then if you saved it, it would remain. Vertices can also be used to add, right? So you could come here and start adding a vertex here and add a vertex here. You could then take those vertices and move them. You could come up and delete another vertex and it'll sort of shift the shape. All right, so totally up to you sort of how you use this, but the purpose of this is you've sort of edited a shape and you need to slightly change how it looks. Cool. One of the next ones that I really like is sort of merge. Now merge is going to need at least 2 shapes, right? So I'm going to draw my sort of second shape first, and I'm going to make them overlap, right? So they're going to overlap. I can see that I've got 2 shapes here. If I were to open my attribute table, I would see, 2 different unique shapes showing up here. Right, if the FID is sort of what differentiates them as being unique. With almost all these tools we're going to use, you need to sort of select the shapes you're going to play with. And that's what I can do here. I'll select both of them, and I'll click merge. And what it's going to do is it's going to sort of show a thing over here, right? So it's telling me, like, change the selection. Selection effectively means, like, select what you want to merge. And then all you'd have to do is merge. And there you go, right? So point is you at least have to have 1 or more shapes that are in the same feature selected, or it's not going to merge. Sort of a complement to that is sort of split. Split's going to want the same thing, right? It's going to want something selected. And you'll see that split tries to prompt you, right? Down here at the bottom, there is another toolbar that opens up, right? That sort of gives you some options of ways to draw a line. And the main thing to know with split is you need to draw a line that cuts across something, right? So I'll start here, and I'll cut all the way down to here and double click. And what that does is it literally splits, right? It literally splits what was 1 thing into 2. And you can sort of see how it's different because I could go to that move thing here, could move, make sure I've only got 1 of my pieces selected. And I could go to move, and I could actually sort of take it away, right? It's no longer sort of a part of the other one. Save it after I've moved it. Oops, sorry. Gotta make sure I check. Say I'm done moving it. Right, I could come and I could rotate it. Check that I'm done. I can scale it, make it larger or sort of smaller. as I see fit. Cool. So let's keep moving on. There's move, rotate, scale. Some of the other ones that I want to show you, and again, you can sort of start to play with these other ones if you want to. But if you keep coming down, clip is another really sort of important one. So what I'm going to do with clip is I'll take, this piece and I'll sort of move it, maybe so it's kind of back over it. And then if you engage clip, right, it's going to bring up a menu similar before, and it's going to be asking you. It wants sort of an input feature. So think about the input feature effectively as like the thing that's going to do the clipping, and the target feature is the thing that's going to get clipped. So I'm saying input feature, I selected you, right? Then I'll go and select my target feature, and my target feature, I'm going to select you, right? It comes up with a different color to signify. And then effectively, I just need to sort of say one thing, right? Either I will preserve, meaning the only thing that will remain is this sort of shape where they both overlap. Split, right, where I'll have something on the outside, something on the inside, and then another thing on the outside. Or discard, which is most common, which would be that it almost sort of acts like a piece of scissors. And so if I do the discard, and then same thing, I kind of play with my shape here, right? I can drag away and see that it actually cut something out on the inside. So let's look at like a quick other one of those sort of cutting things, just so we can get a sense of like what else might be possible with cut or clip. So same thing, I'll kind of move this shape back over, and I'll, maybe I'll just make this sort of triangle section link up right here. So if I go now and engage clip, you'll still be the target or the input, and then the thing I want to clip will be the other shape. But look now, if I say sort of split, right, it'll preserve the outer and the inner, but then it'll create like a third new shape where they overlap, right? So you end up getting, kind of my one here. You get my two here. And your third one here. So it's a new kind of version, right, where it keeps the original two shapes, cuts it out, and then gives you sort of like a third section that is ultimately in the middle. So fun thing to play with. Again, it's sort of good when you're like lining up edges and you want to clip things out so they sort of add up perfectly. So those are kind of the main, like ones in there. Maybe the only other one worth showing is buffer. I'll just have this thing buffered. If you want to sort of increase the size of something, say, hey, the thing I have selected, maybe let's like expand that by, 200 feet, and you'll see like the shape emanate out from the outside, right? So it becomes a little bit bigger of an area, and I can save it, right? And what it ends up creating for me is a, let me select you. What it ends up creating for me is a new shape on the outside. So that's the interesting thing to keep in mind. When you do the buffers, it doesn't take like the triangle shape and turn it to something new. It creates a new shape literally on the outside that is the buffered distance, right? So that's something important to consider. The last pieces that I just want to review that are sort of touched on in the first video is reminding you about the concept of right-clicking when you are working on editor, right? So if I'm starting a new edit and I'm just going to keep moving, you can do things when you right-click and it lets you do like deflection, right? And so that'll give you, radius is like a radial 360 degree. And so if I say 90 degrees, notice here, like I'll turn off the thing maybe below me so it's easier to see. And just make it kind of a white background below. But you can see like no matter where I want to create my thing, I can only create a line at 90 degrees, right? No, I'm going all the way to the left, I'm going all the way to the right, but I can only go off at 90 degrees of that previous point, right? Similar thing if I start drawing a shape here, and maybe I say, distance, and I say, let's just say 355 feet. Notice that I can go in a circle anywhere I want, but no matter where I move my cursor, this line is always 355 feet. And the only other cool one is that if you right-click on another shape, right, you can actually make yourself parallel to it. So I can only be parallel to that, or you can right-click on another shape or line and say, I want to be perpendicular to that. So again, a lot of cool ways you can sort of use the right-click and play around with these. I totally encourage those students that want to expand on their editor knowledge to Google Arc Pro and type in sort of some of the words you see here: offset, construct polygons, and sort of get a sense of what else is capable. But at least those ones: merging, splitting, clipping, edit vertices, and then sort of right clicks are, in my opinion, definitely like the most important basic, or sort of like basic plus, sort of intermediate editor skills that'll let you create really cool shapes in Arc Pro.